Thank you for joining this channel. This is Muto Online. We are back with section A, item 2 of biology. In the last video, we stopped on item 1. So let teacher Alan take us through.
Still on section A, there is item 2. And we say this always comes from element of construct 4. Element of construct 4 has the following topics under it. There is locomotion. There is also coordination. So there are only two topics under this element of construct 4, locomotion and coordination. These topics, they are detailed topics with a number of processes, very many processes, very many structures. But we say training learners at a level of naturalization. It's all about you dividing the remaining time for biology, the time you have given to biology, into these elements of construct, the 5 elements of construct. You may say this week I will prepare work about elements of construct, the way teacher Alan mentioned it. In locomotion and coordination in element of construct 4, the same levels of questions, of tasks, like we mentioned with them, the description, the identification of animal structures, animal and plant structures. When we talk about this, we are talking about both animals and plants. So this question may come from both plants and animals. Don't be specific. So you should be able to identify the structures mentioned in a question, in the scenario. Remember, there is only one thing I liked about the new curriculum. In responses given, it's better you give little relevant information than giving much irrelevant information. How do you know that what I've given is relevant or what I've given is irrelevant? Whenever you find that your response is not coordinating with the scenario, with anything in the scenario, just know you are writing more of the irrelevant information. So you find you have written a lot of things but irrelevant. All of your responses must be targeting the information covered in the scenario. Much as you know very much about these topics, you have made enough free vision about them, all of the responses should be in line with the information covered in the scenario. That is when it is relevant. So, still under this, the levels of tasks and responses, one should be able to identify structures, organs in an animal. In most cases, that will be mentioned in the scenario. They may not mention them directly, they may bring them in other ways. There might be a problem that is affecting certain structures or organs in the body of an organism. So, as you mentioned them, there are very many. We have the likes of neurons or the nerves. We have the likes of the glands. We have the likes of the muscles. We have the likes of the sensory organs, like the eyes, and very many other things. So one should be very good at identifying the structures or organs that were affected by that problem mentioned in the scenario. They should be able to identify the structures or organs targeting in the scenario to be relevant. To continue, they may ask you to describe several processes, how several processes occur. For example, movement of muscles. How is one able to move the hand? How was one able to withdraw the hand from something? Let's say from a hot object. So one should be very good at describing these ones. Describing disorders. One should be good at describing disorders. The cause, the effect, and actually the symptoms of a disorder. How does one know that this someone is suffering from diabetes? How is someone capable of knowing that? What are the side effects of diabetes? What causes diabetes? So one should be good at describing these processes. For example, I've mentioned processes. One should be able to mention effects. One should be able to mention symptoms and causes of several disorders. Not only mentioning, but this sample should also be good at describing these: the effects, the symptoms, and the causes. For example, long-sightedness, which is a defect. A defect of what? Of a sensory organ. Which sensory organ? An eye or eyes. What causes long-sightedness? What are the effects of long-sightedness? What are the symptoms of long-sightedness? How can someone, another level of a task may be how the effect or symptoms of a disorder or disease may be overcome. How can an organism overcome a disorder? This is another level of a task that may be given. For example, how can one overcome a problem, for example, muscle cramps, if it is the challenge talked about in the scenario? How can one overcome a problem of myopia, if it is the one talked about in the scenario? Ear impairment. How can someone overcome all nervous problems? For example, the diabetes we mentioned earlier. So we should always be able to mention how these ones are overcome. This should be behavioral or physiological. The methods. For example, when I say behavior, how do you overcome the problem of myopia? The behavioral method is putting on glasses, lenses. It is behavior. It's not the body doing it, but it's you doing it to overcome this challenge. How does a plant overcome a certain let's say wilting? is the problem identified in the scenario. How does a plant overcome such a problem that is behavioral? So the way or the method used by the organism to overcome a challenge should be behavioral. So we describe a behavioral method. Actually, not physiological, physical method. The way the organism respond to this challenge, disease or disorder. So this is element of course part 4. The question may come on identification of structures. They have very many structures under these topics. You sit down, get your summary book, write all of the structures or organs under these two topics, locomotion and coordination. There are very many structures. We have bones, we have nerves, we have all sensory organs. Mention them. Organize your responses. Organize your notes in these elements of construct in this way. After mentioning all the structures, mention all of processes you've ever had under these topics in a summary format. Sit down and summarize them that I've ever seen this process. For example, the process of contraction and relaxation of muscles in the arm, in the leg, flight in birds, those action of muscles, locomotion in insects, flight in insects. Summarize all of those processes in all organisms, knowing that it may be a task in question to item 2 of your paper. After mentioning these processes, do you know their descriptions? Do you know the structures involved? So, describe how these processes occur. After that, get another paper, make a summary of all disorders. Diseases faced by all of these structures we've mentioned. As you read them, in your summary, include the symptoms. The symptoms of these disorders or diseases. We are talking about this level. Include the cause, know the cause. Mention in your summary how. Actually, before this, mention the effect of the disorder or disease. We are stating the summaries are going to make my learners. 4, you have to mention how the organism collect the disorder. And this, we say, it must be behavior. We say it must be behavior. So the summary you have to make, we've said, get a paper, mention all the structures from that topic, all those topics. Mention all the processes, describing them. Describe the processes very well in summaries. This is process, this is, for example, the reflex arc. After that, go on, mention the disorders or diseases these structures may get. As you are mentioning as you are writing about the disorders, state the symptoms of the disorder, the cause of the disorder, the effect of the disorder, and how the organism, the behavioral way, how the organism correct the disorder. I've mentioned them in the course of the explanation. So this is element of construct. We say it following is crucial. I can repeat this for you. For element of construct 4, you should be able to identify the structures or organs. That is to say, I've given some examples: the nerves, the muscles, the glands, and the sensory organs. One should be able to describe the processes, actually stating and describing the processes carried out by those structures. The role of each structure must be also known. 3, we said one should know the disorder or diseases the structure may face or get. And we also said that we should also mention the behavior or physical way the organism may overcome those disorders or diseases. As you're talking about the disorders or diseases, one should know the symptom of the disease, the causes of the disease or symptoms, or disorder, the effect of the disorder or disease, the behavior or physical method of how the organism corrects the disorder. As simple as that. We say for anything, for you to check your level of understanding, please always visit our website, which is www.mutoonline.com, such that you get papers. They are very many, you cannot finish them in a day. Try those questions, try all questions that come from element of construct 4. Check your level. Those are always item 2 in those papers. Check your level of understanding. Remember, we said our target is to have learners at level of naturalization in terms of learning. This is the last level, when you have something new, something you feel you do it with ease. So for you to be able to do things with ease, subscribe to Muto Online. And when you subscribe, please press that bell for more updates. We have a lot for you, a lot, as in a lot. If you want to answer items with me, still visit us on our Muto website. We organize online classes. This is an online class. We can have class sessions with you people. We soften the things. They are simple. They can be flowing in you. Please subscribe. Thank you. For element of construct 5, we said this said section A, item 3. This has topics that include: 1, we have growth and development. There are topics like reproduction, there is also 3, there is a topic which is genetics. We have variations and selections. So this is under element of construct 5. So when reading this part, expect a question from these topics. That is item 3. Don't prepare anything else under item 3 which are not these topics. So these questions also, this item will also have levels of tasks and responses. Still, the first level will be on identification and description of parts or structures or organs or processes that occur in an organism. Descriptions. For example, an item will be talking about the testicles. Do you know how to describe them? These are part of some of the organs under reproduction. Do you know how to describe testicles? Do you know how to describe, let's say, the vagina? Can you describe them? So there should be description of these organs or parts of the organisms under these topics: growth and development, reproduction, genetics, variations, and selections. Do you know how to describe stating and describing processes? For example, let's say cell divisions, like mitosis, meiosis. A question, an item may come in the scenario, may be talking about formation of gametes, how the gametes are formed, when it is the problem in the scenario identified. Can you talk about formation of gametes in terms of meiosis? Can you talk about how growth occurs by mitosis? Can you describe processes like fertilization? We say we have a book, we are not in the things. As you revise, organize the things. Start with the structures. Do you know any structures, organs, or parts that are concerned with these topics in the body? Which structures are responsible for growth and development, for reproduction, genetics, variations, and selections? Must be known to you in terms of identification and descriptions. Do you know how to describe, mention and describe several processes like mitosis, meiosis, fertilization, copulation? Can you describe processes like birth? Do you know any concept under those topics? So we have concepts like genetic process. When talking about this genetic process, one has to be worded enough. Not only crossing, you have to define every step you are making on the genetic process. You have to define the unknowns you're using where. You have to define every step you're making, not just making crosses. The crosses, these ones we are making previously, will be illustrations. So word descriptions of process are needed to back up these illustrations. So we can also expect some concepts like these ones, the genetic process. For genetics, processes, there are very many processes. I mentioned these ones, but there are many others. We should also expect some genetic and reproductive disorders as a task, as a level of task. Like we mentioned, identification of structures. We talked of description of processes. These are processes as B. We should also expect C as genetic and reproductive disorders. There are very many genetic and reproductive disorders. We can think of very many of these ones, the likes of albinism, how they occur, the likes of hemophilia, so we should think of these ones. We should know, still like we mentioned in element of construct 4, we should know the symptoms under description. We should know the cause, the effect, and the physiological way the body overcomes this disorder, how they occur. So you must know the cause and how the cause comes about under this. So these are the summary of what you should read. For revision purposes, like it was in element of construct 4, one, you go in your book, get a paper, your summary book, make columns where you have a structure in summary and its description, and then a column for use or function of the structure. Function of the structure. It is crucial. Make 3 columns for structures. Then go to processes. You talk about processes, you state a process down here. You talk about, you describe it, how it occurs. A description of how that process occurs. And the structure where the process occurs. So, you go on and make another summary of the disorders or diseases. In that you talk of the symptoms, the cause, the effects, and how that defect or disease occurs. So as you read, make summaries of these, because will be the levels of tasks you find, and this will be the levels of responses expected on every level. If you are told to describe, please go on and identify what you are told to describe, and then talk about details of it. That is a description. If they tell you to explain, use identify that what they have told you to identify, to explain, describe it, and give a reason why it is like that. That is an explanation in short. So this is element of construct 5 summarized. This is always item. It is always item 3 in section A. I think we are simplifying the biology. It is as simple as this. Sit down, organize your work in this format as you're making your summary. Please organize your work in this format. The biology is very simple. Like I've always told you, the science subjects were made very easy and everyone can pass them. They are very simple. To move on, we can look at section B briefly. Section B, like we said, it has 2 parts. Part 1, that has 2 questions, 2 items, that is item 4 and item 5. Then part 2, which comprises of item 6 and item 7. We said this one comes from element of construct 1. This one comes from, this part is set from element of construct 3. This is what we say. We are going to simplify these ones. Let's start with part 1. These items set under this section B, generally, they require an extended response. A response that is extended, that is combining very many things, because it will always come with a single task. This single task will be targeting a response that is merging or converging very many information, a lot of information, very many things under it. Not forgetting that we should state only the relevant information. Relevance is very crucial. We said for an information to be relevant, should be in line with the scenario. Always read what the item reads. The question is telling you to explain the functions of, let's say, a certain part of organ of the body. The question will always, the examiner will always score the correct organ stated, will mark the use of the organ. This is how they mark. So you must state, you mark that state organ, the structure of that organ stated, and then the use of that structure on the organ. So this must be stated. They have told you to explain or to explain adaptations of a certain organ to its functions. They always expect you to state a special feature on that organism, on that organ, and then the use of that special feature. So when marking, always we shall go into this subtype. To go on, element of construct 1, which sets items 6 and 5, 4 and 5, has a number of topics. And these topics include soil, is one of them. There are topics like there are viruses, let me hope you're following. We have viruses, we shall find wildlife and vegetation conservation. We shall find questions like the parasites, those things that are at the end. We shall find topics like ecology. These are some of the topics in element of construct 1. They will always set a single task that will require a certain response, which should be given in stages. I repeat. From element of construct 1, that is section B, part 1, they will set a number, an item with a single task in which the scenario there will be a problem stated or problems identified, but the single task given will always need a response, an extended response actually. an extended response that is given in 3 stages. So the response should be given in stages. Stage 1, one has to talk to state or identify and describe a number of problems that may result from any activity they mention. So they always look at the statement and description of a problem, or problems that will result from whatever they will talk about in the scenario. They will expect they will expect you as a learner to know how to describe how the problems occur, if they are meant to occur, and then they will expect you to describe the natural source affected by a problem. I repeat, stage 1 of a response, they will expect you to identify a problem, describe how it occurs, and in the description, they will expect you to articulate the problem to the natural source that is affected by that problem. They always mention activities or things in a scenario as problems. Their outcomes, the side effects that will occur when those activities are carried out. This topic is about, this element of construct is about our environment. When you look at the topics under it, it is all about the environment. So step 1, when responding, in your response, write down and say, problems likely to be faced. You start talking about one problem by one. You state the problem in your response in a paragraph format. You state the problem, let's say air pollution, in a paragraph format. Explain how air pollution will occur from the above problem stated in the scenario. Talk about how it will occur. Which natural source will this air pollution affect? How will it affect it? So, as stating the natural source affected by the problem, please include how the problem will affect the natural source. This is level 1. In a single paragraph, state a problem, talk about it, how it will occur, talk about at least 3 natural sources that will be affected by that problem, and then how that problem will affect them. Give a reasonable number of paragraphs, at least 4, 5, on problems. This is an extended item. After stating and describing the problem very well as we have stated, you go on the next level, give solutions, the possible solutions to the mentioned, this is level 2, mention the problem. You give responses in this order. Give solutions, describe, give a solution, talk about it and the problem it is solving very well. And also talk about the natural sources you are saving as you carry out, as you practice these solutions, as are talking about them. How would really these solutions mentioned? Are they valid solutions? Are they possible solutions? All what we are stating, these questions or items of element of construct 1 will look like general knowledge questions. Please respond to them in a biology way. Much as you know much of the geograph, and the questions will look like of geograph, don't bring much of the geograph. The literature offerers, please don't include the literature. A lot of English in the response. No. We need mostly biology. Talk about biology. Things that concern only these topics we have mentioned. Capture only these ones we've mentioned. To go on, level 3, one has to give the benefits of the natural resources. You talk about a natural resource. Give its benefit. How is it useful? Which natural resource are you talking about? What is its use? How do organisms benefit from that natural resource? It would have been relevant if you talk about resources that are mostly captured in the scenario for you to be relevant. Capture only those ones involved in the scenario. So the 3 levels of responding to items of part 1, that is 4 and 5, element of construct 1, identification and description of problems, giving solutions to the problems mentioned, and benefits of the natural resources. In that order. If possible, head your response. I'm giving now a response. Item 4. These are likely problems. Give them, mention them in paragraphs. Like you said, you state a problem, you describe it. In description, you talk about how it will occur, the natural resource or resources, at least 3 natural resources per problem that will be affected by that problem, and how the problem will affect those natural resources. You go on and write possible solutions. You may even use a table when responding. Possible solutions. You give solutions to these problems mentioned above, but biological solutions. Biological solutions. And then you go on and give benefits of the natural resources. At least talk about those natural resources you've been moving with, the natural resources that are captured in the scenario for you to be relevant. Remember, all responses should be in line with biology. All responses should be in line with biology. Please subscribe. It is always my cry. For more information, when you subscribe and tap in that bell you see, you'll always get these notifications. We say, by the time you sit for your papers, you will have the best information about them. I'm requesting you to subscribe. Whenever you get a challenge, go to our comment section where you go to our website. We stated it earlier. It is www.utoonline.com. Write in our comment section, identify that problem. We shall always solve it. For you to get to the other level we talked of naturalization, please go to our website, get those papers, try section B part 1 items. Respond to them in this format, in these 3 stages. Statement and description of the problem, solutions to the mentioned problems, benefits of the natural resources, give reasonable paragraphs. Give your responses in paragraphs. Don't number. Don't break your responses. When you do this and you find any challenge, please reach us. Go to our comment section. Put that comment there. Put that problem there. We shall always solve it. Today we say we are simplifying biology. Then there is part 2, section 3. We say there is always item 6 and item 7, and we say these items come from element of construct 3. All of these ones will come from a number of topics, and these topics include the animal cell. The animal cells, when I say cells, I mean very many things, even the specialized cells. It may come from nutrition and nutritional types and nutritional types in animals. It can also come from excretion. Can also come from excretion in animals. It can be about gaseous exchange and respiration in animals. Those are some of the topics from which part 2 may come from. It also has a requirement of responses. Still, don't forget about the statement, the identification, description of structures involved in all of these topics. For example, don't forget about the kidney, the nephron, and so on, in terms of excretion. Don't forget about very many parts that are involved in these processes you see here, and their functions. And functions of structures, stroke organs. Don't forget the many processes that are likely to occur in these structures that fall under these topics. When you talk about these processes, don't forget about their description in terms of where they occur, the raw materials, if there is anything needed to manufacture, how they occur, and when do they occur. I think we are following where they occur, the raw materials, how they occur, when they occur, likely products, and why they occur in those structures, stroke organs. Why they always occur in such structures in terms of processes. We can think of processes like digestion. We can think of processes like water balance and excretion, the likes of temperature regulation, the likes of under excretion. We can think of water balance, temperature regulation. We can also think of sugar level, blood sugar level regulation. We can think about all of these ones. These are all processes. We should know how they occur, where they occur, why they occur. To go on, as a learner, remember, targeting a level of naturalization. We can also think of the disorders. Those may be deficiency disorders. For example, if the question is about nutrition in animals, we have very many deficiency disorders like the marasmus. What causes marasmus? Why? How does it occur? And when you talk about these disorders or diseases, like we said, you must know the symptoms, the effects of the disorder. One has to know the cause of the disorder. Still, one has to know how the behavioral methods one can use to overcome in responses, to overcome the disorder or disease. When I talk of behavior, things you yourself can do by your consciousness. For example, visiting an hospital for a medical checkup, that is behavior. You can go for a surgery if you have a certain thing, this certain disorder. You can change diet. The question may come when it is on deficiency disorder. So changing the diet may be a good behavior method. You can solve a certain disorder or disease. So when responding to items of section B, part 2, that is from element of construct 2, know they will come from those topics. Cell, animal cells, nutrition in animals, excretion in animals, gaseous exchange, and then respiration in animals. Remember we said these items of section B require an extended response. An extended response. This extended response should involve parts or structures or organs, their descriptions and their functions, processes if included in the scenario, and when talking about the processes, we have mentioned some. We mentioned some processes like digestion, water balance, temperature regulation, sugar level regulation, blood sugar level regulation, and so many others. Please always go on and talk about in which organ those things occur, what brings about them, why they should occur there, what are the likely products that may result as that process occurs, where does it occur and how it occurs. All those are crucial things when responding to biology items of part 2 from element of construct 3. And then we may also ask about diseases or disorders. Under these topics, please always identify a disorder, talk about its causes, the symptoms if needed, think of a question about effects of that, and how to correct the disorder or disease, and the response should be behavioral. I think we are getting to that level of naturalization in learning. Our target is this level. We need to write exhaustively responding to biology items that you label set. I know we can get to this level. Just subscribe, follow us on all our social media platforms. I'm online. Like we started, we say we recorded this at Little Bands Kindergarten, located in Kasenge Budo. Actually, a school recommendable to all parents close to Kasenge. I've actually made some of the healthiest shower rooms and toilets. My first time in a primary school, they are very healthy. I met them. Reached them. I have talked to the madam. The pay is negotiable. The tuition, negotiable. Bring all your kids, starting with kids of 9 months and older, so long as they don't exceed primary 3. I'm online. My name is Teacher Alan. Let's meet when giving details of these elements of construct in terms of topics on how to respond to certain several items. Thank you.